in January, and in March, it's a different case. So what's happening is that, as opposed to just saying, well, I've got a girlfriend this week, a new girl that week, that's my wife. I have to take care of her. I'm responsible for her. Any children that she has, we don't have to go to court for somebody to force me to pay up or anything of this nature. Now, I think we have one question here.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Armin Yusupovich from Bosnia, and we are talking today about sexual education, okay, and about sexual discipline. I have one question, okay, and how can we control sexual education of our children, okay, and can we talk about that sexual issues directly with them, or just to let them learn about it from other sources, which are maybe more dangerous, okay, from media or from newspapers, okay. Thank you.
Is that question for me?
I think so. There was no name on it, but we're going to pass it to you.
Okay, no problem. I would say that sexual education is very important for the children. But again, if we go back to the Quran and the Sunnah, we'll find out that this is a very touchy and critical issue, which means that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that we should teach our children how to pray at the age of 7. And then he said he also have to beat them. In fact, of course, the word beat here again,
yes,
and it doesn't mean beating, like that leaves any effect or I mean any harm. So it means like, you have to teach them to how to pray at the age of 7, and then you have to discipline them to pray at the age of 10. And he said, and do not let them sleep in the same bed at the age of 10. So when this age comes, then we should just let them know that you should not sleep with each other. We don't have to, start the topic unless, the time has come. Also, when it comes to the age of puberty, we would leave it when the time comes and then the changes happen in the body of the girl, then we can talk to her. And also we can teach her, the fluids that come out of her. What are the kinds, and, what do they mean, and how can she, get the purity out of that. Also, when the boy comes to the age of, puberty, and, we have to teach him the different types of fluid that comes out of him, and, how can he purify himself. So we don't have to start talking about this, but we have to start it on the right time.
Doctor, we have maybe 1 minute left, but I would like to open up a topic with you. There are some people who would say, I cannot get married now. I don't have the finances, or I haven't met a suitable person, or what have you. So therefore, they resort to masturbation, or the secret habit, as it's called. Is this permissible?
No, it's not permissible, and it has many bad effects, and the Prophet ﷺ warned us that we should stop that habit.
Okay. But I think Musa wanted to begin.
Well, an interesting point you brought up earlier, and we discussed a little bit, is this idea that desire by itself is a justification for behavior. And there's perhaps no other issue where that is more the core belief than this issue of homosexuality. Because the argument of these people is that because I desire this for myself, nobody else has the right to tell me I'm wrong. And, the acceptability of this mentality, for instance, I work in academia. For many people in academia, for you to oppose homosexuality, for them it's the equivalent as if, you're almost like a Nazi. And this is just at the level of saying that homosexuality is a sin. But in fact, more than that, in Islam, homosexuality is actually a criminal act. And at least in my understanding, that it's a criminal act that can even carry punishments with it. Is that accurate?
Of course. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said, that, when a person commits such an act, he said, kill the one who does it and kill the one to whom it is done. So it is. It's one of the greatest sins.
But we have groups.
It's one of the unnatural, ways of life.
But we have groups that are actively, Muslim groups, that are actively, openly homosexual, lesbian, and actually call to this affair. They're not callers in the fact to say, be like us, but what they're calling to is the fact that if you are gay, lesbian, or bisexual, and you're Muslim, that it's okay.
I would say that these people are called Muslims. I wouldn't say that they are real Muslims, because we have to differentiate between, somebody who's called a Muslim but he knows nothing about Islam, and somebody who really understands what Islam is all about and he practices Islam in his life. So I would say such phenomena is because of the lack of guidance and the lack of education. These people are totally ignorant of what Islam is all about. Islam, as you mentioned in the first segment, is a comprehensive way of life. Islam has 5 main essential things to save in this worldly life. First of all, religion, which is the relationship with the Creator. Second, it's the mind. You have to think, what are the consequences of what you will do? Third, it's the individual who lives, again, within a society, so the individual and the society. And third, it's the property. And in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you this body, so it belongs to Allah. And He will ask you, what have you done with it? You're not supposed to mess up with it. And the last thing is the offspring. How can we have a harmonious society which is built on, sound relationship? I was invited to a symposium while I was in the United States where, one of the flyers says a woman is raped every 2 minutes. And this is one of the consequences of this sexual freedom. And, they are still discussing why this is happening. So we have to understand what's the meaning of freedom. And we have to understand that those people who claim to be Muslims and they do this, I would say that they don't understand what Islam is all about.
What we do is we have a few questions here that we're going to have to try to run rapid fire, inshallah, because I want everybody to try to benefit from this topic as best as we possibly can. And we have a question right here in the first row. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
My question to the doctor, I'm not married yet. When I get my sex desire increases, it's become a problem for me. So what is the real solutions to reduce it? Thank you.
In fact, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has the answer to your question. He said, "O young men who are able, both physically and financially, get married if you have the ability, both financially and physically. And if you are not, fast." This is like a shield for you. So I would recommend you to fast, because this weakens the body, and again, this weakens also the capacity for this, one of the prominent desires within human beings, which is the sexual desire.
We're going to come back and we're going to discuss the topic of homosexuality when we come back, inshallah ta'ala. So go get us both, all 3 of us, a sandwich and some cookies and milk, and we'll be back in a few short minutes, inshallah ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we are back with our guests, Musa McGuire and Dr. Rida Bidair. And we were discussing the topic of homosexuality. What we do is we have a few questions here that we're going to have to try to run rapid fire, inshallah, because I want everybody to try to benefit from this topic as best as we possibly can. And we have a question right here in the first row. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
My question to the doctor, I'm not married yet. When I get my sex desire increases, it's become a problem for me. So what is the real solutions to reduce it? Thank you.
In fact, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has the answer to your question. He said, "O young men who are able, both physically and financially, get married if you have the ability, both financially and physically. And if you are not, fast." this is like a shield for you. So I would recommend you to fast, because this weakens the body, and again, this weakens also the capacity for this, one of the prominent desires within human beings, which is the sexual desire.
We have a question in the second row. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My name is Mahmoud from Egypt. And actually, I know some non-Muslim friends, and they take it against Islam that Prophet Muhammad married his wife Aisha when she was very young. So what do you think their rebuttal in such a case?
That's a good one, and it's a hot topic in the West. In fact, there are many backgrounds that have to be clarified, regarding this question. It was the habit of the Arabs during that time that old people would marry young girls. And you'll be amazed to know that the grandfather of the Prophet, Abdul and the Prophet's father, Abdullah, they married, both of them, on the same night, two girls who are almost the same age. Abdullah married Amina, and Abdul Muttalib married Hala, the cousin of Amina. So can you imagine the father and the son marrying on the same night? Nobody talked about this at that time. You'll be also amazed to know that Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiallahu anh, the second ruler of the Muslims after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, he married the daughter of Ali, who was, Umar himself was almost 25 years older than Ali. So can you imagine the difference in the age? And in fact, the disbelievers of Mecca left no chance to attack the Prophet ﷺ. So because it was very common at that time, socially speaking, nobody talked about it. And if we talked from the medical point of view, I would say that the minimum age of attaining puberty now, I wouldn't say now, it has been proven medically now, it is 9 years. And you'll be amazed that in the Book of Records,
Guinness Book of World Records.
Guinness Book, yeah. The youngest grandmother is in the United States of America, and she's 21 years old. Which means that she was married when she was 9. So why don't they talk about this?
Possible that there might be other agendas. We have a question right here in the second row. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And after that, I wanna ask you, my brother is in front of me, question about this good topic. Is, for example, I love a girl. She's not in here. She's another country, and I need to learn this country. And she asked me to come to there soonly, and I need at least 1 year to stay here. How can I do it?
I think your question is that there's a woman that you would like to marry,
yeah,
but you have to stay here in this country for a year,
yeah,
and it's difficult for you.
yeah.
I think I can maybe handle this one.
Right.
You have to see the answer that the brother over here got, because I think that you may have a similar case and circumstance wherein the Prophet ﷺ made mention for us to fast in an effort to curb the sexual desires. So is this...
That's fine.
correct?
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
It applies to both of them, which is, again, Brother Bilal mentioned in the introduction to this episode the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Nur, verse number 30, He mentioned that there is a command for those who believe. That's verse 30 for men, and verse 31 for women, to lower their gaze. This is also one of the things that, or one of the assets that can help you to inhibit this, prominent desire within men and women.
Okay, we have another question in the third row. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is it important to teach people that homosexuality is wrong?
I would say we shouldn't raise an issue unless it is raised by itself, because sometimes when we raise something and people don't know about it, then it becomes an issue, and then we come we come to a time where we have tribulation and trial. And in fact, we just deal with this because it's something in the West, and we are talking to the Muslims who live in the West too. But in countries like in the East, where this is not an issue, we shouldn't deal with it. But I would say that nobody is born as homosexual. In fact, it's a bad habit that people would follow and try to satisfy, again, based on, very ungrounded, justifications, saying that it's a desire and I should not, suppress this desire and I'm free to do whatever I like. No, you have to be responsible and held accountable for what you do. You don't live alone.
But they say that the argument is that I was born that way. Allah created me this way, so therefore there must be good in it.
I wouldn't agree that somebody is born as homosexual. It's a moral disorder, and religiously speaking, it's a sin. So such a person should stop and inhibit this desire, and should go and seek medical treatment if there is something wrong with him. And in some cases, this is like successful. I mean, a medical treatment would do it, would just help him to stop that. But I wouldn't agree that somebody is born as homosexual.
One argument I've heard about this, which is just adding another layer of misguidance, I guess, is that people say that there's been shown that certain animals have been seen engaging in this kind of behavior, and therefore it's proof that it's natural. On the other hand, we have to ask, what kind of model are we taking if we're making the behavior of animals our guide?
If this is the case.
If this is the case, and I've heard that even some of these animals that supposedly do this also eat their young. So, if this is what our standard is going to be.
And the law of animals, that sometimes, the survival is for the strongest, not for the fittest. So if we can just, take animals as models, then we can kill each other and, live like animals. One more thing, in Islam, men should be men and women should be women. And the Prophet ﷺ, cursed the men who try to be, like women, and women who try to be like men. So again, this is against this value in Islam.
Well, Ikhwan, we're nearing the end of our time. This particular topic of sexual discipline, I think it's clear that there has to be a level of discipline, even for those people who say, I was born with a very high sexual desire. That doesn't mean that you can go out and do whatever it is that you like with whoever it is that you like, whenever you like. Because we are human beings, Allah created us with a sense of reasoning. Now, unfortunately, we have to at least turn the cameras off, and we can continue our discussion, only you won't be there to see it.
I just have one word to say.
And just make it a quick one, inshallah.
Of course, one of the reasons behind polygamy is also to discipline, this hyper, activity when it comes to the sexual desire. I mean, if a person is hyper when it comes to sexual desire, he's allowed, if he is able financially to have a second wife. And as you said, it's a protection for that woman,
right,
rather than having her as a mistress or go on dating and having problems.
Right. Well, we're going to continue, inshallah ta'ala, but I'm sorry, you won't be there to see it. But next time, inshallah, you will. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do